Really? I whispered, my hands trembling. My mother-in-law buried her face in the table, tears streaming down. I just slipped up, dear. I didn't mean to. I just couldn't stop myself. Tuan cut in, his voice firm. It's not a slip anymore, mother. How many times has this happened? How many times have you promised to stop? What excuse do you have this time? My father-in-law stood up abruptly, pulled a thick envelope and a stack of papers from the cupboard, and slammed them onto the table. I was ready to file for divorce last year, but our son begged me to endure. I told you. One more relapse and I will not forgive you. He turned to Tuan, his eyes grave. Do you see this, son? A husband who can't protect his wife isn't worthy of being a husband. Your wife stays in this house because of you. Do you understand that? Tuan lowered his head, silent tears falling. My father-in-law's voice grew hoarse as he looked at me. Non, I'm sorry. You've borne far too much. But this time, I promise it won't happen again. He turned back to his wife, shaking, her tears pooling on the edge of the table. Listen carefully. Either you enter a gambling rehabilitation center, or we divorce. There's no third option. My mother-in-law burst into sobs, wailing. Do you want to throw me away like trash? I'm not throwing you away. You've led yourself to this point. That afternoon, the house, once a refuge, felt suffocating under the weight of truth and pain. Tuan and I stood silently on the upstairs landing, looking down at the courtyard. My father-in-law was on the phone, arranging an appointment with a psychologist. Tuan gripped my hand tightly, his voice choked. You see, I've done it. I won't let you endure this again. I looked at him for a long time and nodded. Thank you. This time, you made the right choice. Tuan gave a sad smile. I only regret it's too late. That night, when I entered our room, I found my mother-in-law sitting quietly, eyes swollen. She looked up, her voice trembling. Non, I know I've done wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I just ask, if you leave this place, don't see me as an enemy. I stayed silent for a long while, then replied, Mother, I don't hate you, but I no longer have enough trust to call you family. I don't want to hold a grudge, but I can't pretend I've never been hurt. After that night, my mother-in-law became like a different person. No more pleas, no more tears begging for sympathy. She grew quiet, almost cold, sometimes sitting for whole afternoons on the porch, her eyes empty. My father-in-law firmly arranged for a gambling rehab center outside the city, completing all the paperwork. He said bluntly, if she refused to go, the divorce papers would be filed immediately. Unexpectedly, she didn't resist this time, just nodded, exhausted but resigned. Tuan took his mother to the facility. I didn't go with them. I couldn't pretend to be heartbroken when I was the one most hurt. I couldn't offer words of comfort either, because I knew any change, if it came, had to start with her. Without my mother-in-law, the house felt as though a dark cloud had lifted. Tuan and I could finally live as husband and wife, without constant tension. Yet strangely, I felt a void. Many nights I woke up startled by the absence of her shuffling slippers in the hallway. I didn't miss her, but I missed the feeling of once having a whole family, something I had believed was real. Tuan tried, little by little, to make amends. After work, he cooked dinner himself, cleaned up, and took care of every small detail, as if he wanted to start anew. In the days that followed, Tuan no longer brought up the past, nor did he use pretty words to apologize or try to move me. He simply went about quietly doing small chores around the house, laundry, cleaning, cooking. That very silence left me unsettled. One afternoon, while he was bent over the rice cooker in the kitchen, I instinctively walked up and wrapped my arms around him from behind, the first time in months of storms. He froze, then slowly turned and held me tightly. Have you forgiven me yet? He asked, his voice trembling. I shook my head. I'm not sure, but I still want to stay by your side. Maybe that's a beginning. He hugged me tighter, saying nothing more. By the third week since my mother-in-law had entered treatment, I received a call from the center. Are you Mrs. Mai's daughter-in-law? The doctor wants to inform you. She's showing signs of mild depression, withdrawn, eating poorly, hardly talking. We hope a family visit might support her mentally. I went quiet for a few seconds, then agreed. Deep down, perhaps I wanted to close that chapter of tension in a complete way, whether through forgiveness or finality. That afternoon, I visited the center. The visiting room was spacious and bright. My mother-in-law sat by the window, her face gaunt. The moment she saw me, she broke into tears. You really came? I thought you'd never want to see me again. I set down a carton of milk and a small pack of cookies in front of her. I heard you've been skipping meals. If you don't eat, how will you have the strength to change? She gave a strained smile, tears streaming down. I once thought that if I disappeared, you'd be at peace. But now I realize, the wounds I caused can only be healed by me. I nodded gently. As long as you understand that, it's enough. I don't want to hear you cry or beg anymore. I only hope you'll do what's right, not for anyone else, but for yourself. If you want to redeem what you've broken, start by living better. She trembled as she held my hand, choking up, "Thank you. I'm sorry for being so greedy that I lost your trust." That evening, I told Tuan what had happened. He quietly held my hand. "You're still the strongest person I've ever known." I gave a faint smile. "It's not strength. It's just that I've grown too tired to have the energy to be weak anymore." We sat in silence. Outside, the wind rose, but this time I didn't feel cold. I understood. No one can change unless they truly want to, and no home can survive without honesty and respect. I realized what kept me standing wasn't endurance, it was choosing to live for myself. Each morning, when I looked at my bare face in the mirror, I could still smile, as if to affirm, I am alive, and I am still me. After that visit to the center, I no longer carried guilt. It wasn't exactly forgiveness, but my heart felt lighter. I knew I couldn't control others, but I could take charge of my own life. That was what mattered most. Work at the office also began to brighten. After my leave of absence, I returned to the warm welcome of my colleagues. My supervisor, Ms. Hong, called me in, set a cup of hot tea on the desk, and said, "I see leadership potential in you. Would you like to try for the position of team leader?" I was surprised. "I thought you'd choose someone with more seniority." Ms. Hong smiled. Ms. Hong gently set her teacup down, her voice calm. "Seniority is one thing, but what I see in you are three qualities: your ability to handle work, your discipline, and your initiative. After everything you've been through, I believe you know how to manage not only the job but also yourself and the people around you." Her words lodged in my chest. After so many upheavals, being trusted again made me realize I had never truly fallen. "Yes, if you believe in me, I'll do my best." At home, I told Tuan. His face lit up like a child receiving a gift. "I told you, once you stand up again, you'll shine." I looked at him and smiled. The Tuan I saw now was no longer the indifferent, weak husband from before. He had learned to admit his faults, to take responsibility, and no longer hid blindly behind the word, filial. That night, he held my hand as we strolled under the trees near the park. "Non, if you could choose again, would you still marry me?" I glanced at him, teasing, "That's a hard question. If I hadn't married you, maybe I'd be rich by now, saving a few $100 million. Tuan laughed, then grew quiet. I squeezed his hand. "I've never regretted loving you. I only regret that we didn't know how to hold on to each other from the start." Gratitude flickered in his eyes. "Thank you for not leaving me." I lifted my gaze to the moon peeking through the clouds. "I'm not staying out of pity. I'm staying because I still have hope. And as long as there's hope, I want to give us a chance, even if it's the last one." Midweek, the treatment center called. "Ms. Non, congratulations. Mrs. Mai has completed her therapy program. Her psychological indicators are stable. The family may pick her up at any time." I set the phone down and looked out the window. So she had finished the first stretch of the road. I wasn't sure about the future, but I knew this. If she returned, it would no longer be a right to be forgiven but a final chance to live decently. On the day we picked her up, I wore a plain white shirt, simple and neat, like my state of mind. She walked slowly out of the gate, thin, her hair cut short. Seeing me, she stopped, her eyes brimming. "You still came to get me?" I nodded lightly. "Because I'm a decent person." "But mother, decency isn't weakness. From today, live as a new person. Don't let yourself become a burden to anyone, not even to yourself." She said nothing, only nodded silently as tears streamed down. Back at home, my father-in-law looked at her and said simply, "This time I don't need you to apologize. I need you to prove it." She nodded again, offering no excuses. That night, lying in bed, Tuan held me from behind and whispered, "I used to think a strong woman was one who sacrificed and endured. Now I understand. Strength is knowing what to keep, what to let go, and loving yourself first." I gave a soft laugh. I wasn't strong from the start. It's just that when there's no way back, a woman is forced to become her own support. We lay still. Outside the window, the full moon shone bright, like a blessing for the rebirth of a woman who had fallen, had cried, but had never abandoned herself. One morning in July, the sky was as clear as freshly polished glass. I sat on the porch with a cup of ginger tea in my hand, my heart light as white clouds. It had been a long time since I'd felt such peace, no more torment, no more confusion. No longer were there days when I kept asking myself over and over, did I do something wrong? Did I deserve to be treated this way? Since returning from her treatment, my mother-in-law had changed a great deal. She no longer made secret phone calls, no longer invented excuses to meet acquaintances and gossip, and she no longer meddled in money matters. Instead, she had become quieter, more measured. Every morning, she brewed a pot of tea, set it on the table, then quietly went to tend the garden. At each meal, she would place some vegetables in my bowl, saying nothing, yet her eyes carried silent gratitude. Perhaps it's only when a person reaches their limits that they are forced to change. Tuan, too, was different now. Not perfect, but sincere and warm enough that I felt truly valued. He still cooked, still asked me about the smallest things. Did you have a good day at work? Are you tired? Most importantly, he no longer used his mother as an excuse for the wounds his wife had suffered. Once, as I was hanging the laundry, he wrapped his arms around me from behind and softly said, "If you had left me back then, I think I would have spent my whole life in regret." I touched his cheek, smiling, "And if I hadn't been brave enough to walk away, perhaps you would never have awakened." We both laughed, a light laugh, no longer tinged with bitterness. I began attending a communication skills class at the community center. When I shared part of my life story, the room fell silent. A woman older than me took my hand, her eyes brimming with tears. "You're not admirable because you endured. You're admirable because you knew when to stand up." I only smiled. I wasn't proud of having suffered, but proud that I never allowed myself to remain buried in that suffering. That day, I wrote in my journal, "Women aren't born strong. They become strong because they were once weak, and refuse ever to be trampled again." Tuan and I agreed to postpone having children. Though some in the family disapproved, I remained firm. Before becoming a mother, I wanted to live in an environment of safety and fairness. I told my husband, "I don't want our child to grow up amidst anger and lies." He held my hand, his eyes gentle. "I understand. We'll only have a child when you're truly ready. No one has the right to pressure you, not even me." My heart warmed, like sipping a cup of fresh morning tea. One day, my mother-in-law entered my room with a notebook in her hand. She placed it on the table, her voice trembling. "These are the amounts of money I owed you. I know I can't repay it all, but I sold my wedding ring and the jade necklace. I gathered nearly 80 million. I want to return it to you. At least now I don't owe you any more." I froze, not because of the money, but because I had never expected any restitution from her. I nodded softly. "I'll accept it, not because I need the money, but because I value the mother you are now, not the one you used to be." She choked up. "Thank you, for not letting me become someone I myself would despise." Today, looking in the mirror, I wore no heavy makeup, just a touch of pale lipstick. The smile on my lips was no longer a mask for pain, but the smile of a woman who had passed through storms and found the sunrise. I knew I had been reborn. Dear friends, as Nan's story comes to a close, we are reminded, no one is born resilient. Strength is forged from the times we collapse, from wounds we swear never to repeat. Being a wife, being a daughter-in-law can sometimes be as calm as a breeze, yet at other times storms will surround us. As long as a woman holds on to her dignity and self-respect, she can continue forward, without bitterness, but with a heart freer and more at peace than ever before. Thank you for accompanying the sentiments of Old Age Channel in this story. If you found meaning in it, please support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to follow more heartfelt, deeply human stories. See you in the next episode.